none of this stuff that we talk about or that we read is any good unless you put it into action.
I am actually giving them $1 million business ideas, and they do nothing with it.
But you have to take what you learn and what you read and apply it, because if you don't, then it's worthless.
Ever wonder how the e-commerce brands you admire do it? How they just know the right message to send to the right people at the right time? Guess what? It's not experience. They have the right data and the right tools. They have Klaviyo. Klaviyo's data-driven marketing automation platform is sophisticated enough to power those legendary campaigns from the brands you admire, but they made it simple, easy, and fast enough for anyone to use. Klaviyo helps brands easily create personalized, multi-channel marketing campaigns using the most powerful asset, your customers' data. Klaviyo integrates with all leading e-commerce platforms, helping you use your customer data in real time to send more relevant email and SMS automations. Plus, building a marketing campaign is drag and drop easy. You can get started with your first campaign in under an hour and easily build from there with Klaviyo's best performing templates. Klaviyo gives you all the power of an enterprise marketing automation platform and none of the complexity, so you can compete with the big guys. No wonder more than 65,000 brands can't get enough. To get started with your free trial of Klaviyo, visit klaviyo.com/uncensored. That's KLAVIYO.com/uncensored.
You're listening to E-Commerce Uncensored with Kevin Manel and Jason Caruso.
Hey everyone, and thanks for joining us on another episode of E-Commerce Uncensored. My name is Kevin Manel, and I'm here with
Jason Caruso.
And you're sitting here getting ready to take your family to Myrtle Beach.
Yes.
It's a complicated situation.
Yeah, Jessica's been crying the last day.
Oh, really?
She's getting her period too, so it's kind of like a mixture of things. But I just heard her in like the shower crying right now, and
you just made half of our audience upset over that comment.
Oh well, I don't know what to tell you. So no, I'm saying like I think she's just emotional right now.
Oh yeah, it is an emotional time.
Yeah. Like I wanted her to come with me because I'm leaving tonight. She's flying tomorrow, and I'm like, why don't you just come with me tonight? And like the excuse has been, there's not enough room. Well, we packed the car and there's plenty of room. So now she's like, no, I think I want to stay till tomorrow. So
how's your son doing?
He seems fine. I mean, whenever I say we're going to Myrtle Beach, he's like, I don't want to talk about it, but he'll be fine. So Kevin, today, were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to say we're gonna do one kind of like a quick tip kind of scenario here.
Yeah. So we last episode we had Joseph from Funny Sales Videos on, and we talked about not just, I believe we talked about that with him, right? About or was it the podcast before that?
It's hard to tell, especially on those interviews, because we talk like before and after, and we talk to our team and stuff. So it's really hard to keep track nowadays with all these Zoom calls.
Yeah. Anyway, we were talking about how we sent it was probably on the book, about the book,
the copywriting secrets,
copywriting secrets book that I read, and we did a landing page, and then we made $40,000 with the first email, and now after a week and a half, we're at $90,000. And what we're going to talk about today is, those numbers sound impressive, because I'm pretty impressed with those numbers, and I it's amazing, because if before we were doing these kind of numbers, if I were to hear somebody say that, I'd be like, oh man, that is insane. But the truth of the matter is, Kev, is like, I read the book and then I put it into action, right? Yeah. We were talking about how you'll buy a book and you won't read it or something, right? Because you're working with our clients, and we kind of have like different roles at this point in the business. So like, I do have a little bit more free time when it comes to doing these side projects than you do.
Yeah,
But
you locked yourself in your office for like 2 weeks.
dude, that was tough. But yeah, I literally did. I was doing a lot of research. I was writing, I don't know anything about photography, so it was like, or wildlife photography, so I had to learn it. But the point was that I think a lot of people are like you, where they'll buy a book and they have, thoughts of grandeur, and they're gonna sit down and listen to it and read it, but life kind of gets in the way.
Well, it's even worse than that, Jason. Before you move on, it's like, because I agree with you. Like I took these books from our office so I can have the same setup of books that you have behind you. So I remember very vividly, like, I don't know, it was like 2 or 3 years ago on my trip to Aruba, I bought Expert Secrets on the way or before I left. And midway through the trip, I called you and I was like, dude, get ready. When I come back,
Yeah,
we're gonna make a friggin' course. We're gonna make a ton of cash. Like this is all making so much sense to me. It's so clear to me now. Well, I did only made it halfway through the book.
No, you still haven't finished it.
So I got through it. I got through the first half and I got excited. And then you're like, for me, yeah, like life got in the way. And I'm sure, and not even just life. It's like
The business, clients.
that is part of life. It's just the barrier of doing it, right? It's the barrier of getting out of the book and putting things into motion.
Yeah, and I wonder how many times people do that with even our podcast, where they'll listen to something and like they'll message us and be like, "Oh man, that was awesome," but then just don't do anything.
Right.
Right? Like none of this stuff that we talk about is any good unless you go do it. It's the same thing with the book, right? Like the book is great, but like you got to do something with it. And I think that when we were talking in one of the podcasts, I don't remember which one it was, but we were just like, you said that you're like, yeah, like my mind starts wandering, and then like I just don't finish the book. And it occurred to me that none of this stuff that we talk about or that we read is any good unless you put it into action. And that's all we've done, right? Like I'm not a copywriter. I read Copywriting Secrets. He outlines what you should do, and then I did it. Right. I imagine that like, the truth is like most people probably just hire someone and say, I don't want to do it.
Right.
Right. But I think that's the difference. That's the difference between, making something happen and something not happening. Or that's the difference between maybe us now and what we were doing like years ago. Right. Because we're clearly doing much better now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not, you were like that a lot too. I mean, previously you had all this information a lot of times, and it seemed like this time something just clicked for you, and you were like, "Fuck it, I'm doing it." Like I said, lock myself in my room, and I'm going to get this done, and I'm going to take action on this.
So copywriting has always been something that's been, on my heart. That I've always wanted to know how you can use words to persuade people. Right? It's always like a thing, and I felt like this book. Because like a lot of the other stuff that I read or that I do, it's like I know it already. I'm just like, it's just like I always felt like copywriting was like this one hurdle for me. And like once I read that book and listened to it, because I read it, this one I read and listened to, by the way, at the same time. I felt like, okay, now I get it. And so now all the funnels that we do, all the other stuff that we do, yeah, that's all great. But you kind of need copywriting to do it.
Ever wonder how the e-commerce brands you admire do it? How they just know the right message to send to the right people at the right time? Guess what? It's not experience. They have the right data and the right tools. They have Klaviyo. Klaviyo's data-driven marketing automation platform is sophisticated enough to power those legendary campaigns from the brands you admire, but they made it simple, easy, and fast enough for anyone to use. Klaviyo helps brands easily create personalized, multi-channel marketing campaigns using the most powerful asset, your customers' data. Klaviyo integrates with all leading e-commerce platforms, helping you use your customer data in real time to send more relevant email and SMS automations. Plus, building a marketing campaign is drag and drop easy. You can get started with your first campaign in under an hour and easily build from there with Klaviyo's best performing templates. Klaviyo gives you all the power of an enterprise marketing automation platform and none of the complexity, so you can compete with the big guys. No wonder more than 65,000 brands can't get enough. To get started with your free trial of Klaviyo, visit klaviyo.com/uncensored. That's KLAVIYO.com/uncensored. Talk about that for a second, because you just mentioned the fact that you read it and listened to it at the same time, and that's something you keep telling me, that you feel like you can absorb the information much faster. And as you were doing it, as you would have kept telling me, like, I'm reading it, and you actually had like highlighters and stuff. And I've actually never seen you get that deep into books, but
Yeah.
reading it and listening to it at the same time actually helps you out.
Yeah. So I used to listen to a lot of books. I mean, you know that I have an hour into the office, an hour home, hour and a half home sometimes, depending on the traffic. And I've always been like an avid listener, right? But when you're in the car, I kind of get like you, where like he talks, like they talk about something, and then like I think about how we can do it in our business, and then I just miss like another 20 minutes of
Yeah.
the book.
It's still the audio is still playing as you're thinking about all these scenarios. The same
Right.
thing happens when I'm reading. So it happens at the same time.
Right. So, this last book with copywriting secrets, I didn't do it purposely. I just wanted to highlight, and I wanted to really grasp this concept. So I got the book and I started listening to the audio, and I started highlighting stuff, and like I'm like, oh man, like I remember it so much better, right? Like it just sticks. Now, this other book that I got, the $100 million offers by Alex Hormozy, I was just listening to it at first, and you asked me about the book, and it was a lot harder for me to tell you about the book because I wasn't reading it at the same time as I did the copywriting secrets. So, I did end up in my mess here. I'm moving, but I did get the book. It's gigantic. If I knew it was this big, I wouldn't have gotten it. But it's a gigantic book, and now I'm listening and reading at the same time, and I'm absorbing it a lot better. And what's even funnier is that in this book, I didn't know why this was happening, but in this book, Alex actually, in the $100 million offers, Alex actually talks about reading and listening to the book at the same time. And the science behind it is actually that it is stored in two different places in your brain. So when you read, it's stored in one part of your brain. When you listen, it's stored in another part of your brain. So when you read and listen, it's stored in two different parts of your brains, which is why you absorb more of it.
I think you also too, because it seemed like when I was watching you go through this process, and we're talking about like the actual execution of the things that you were reading, weren't you actually doing it while you were reading? So you were reading, highlighting, listening, but you were also executing at the same time, right? Am I wrong?
No, I would actually, as he was going down the book, I would say, oh, he would talk about like this section being like talking about agitating the problem, sort like, and then I would write our section agitating the problem. But yes, I would follow along. So that helped as well.
Yeah, I think that would help for me too. And even the things we just talked about, how you're reading or you're listening and all these thoughts come into your head. And I think it's a good idea to like, don't let those thoughts actually distract you from what you're reading. Like actually do what you're thinking about, like as you're reading. Don't take it as maybe like a bad thing, I guess. Take it as like an actual actionable thing to do while you're, taking in the information.
Yeah, and the thing about that is that it's also much, fresher in your mind. So like I was literally reading the section about whatever he was talking about. I was listening to it, reading it, highlighting it, and then actually doing it. So it was really just really fresh in my mind. And I think that's partly, why we had so much success with it, is because, I actually did it.
Yeah.
I didn't just actually put effort into it. And I think that's the part where us humans, we don't like to put effort into things. I think we just like things to be done easily for us.
Well, I think we don't put effort into things when it comes to business where you don't, you're not going to read a book and then get paid at the end of it, right? I think that's part of the barrier, especially with entrepreneurs, especially when you're reading a book that's going to give you more work to do. I think it ends up being a barrier for most people. And I wish that like when I did read Expert Secrets and I had all this excitement when I was on vacation, I wish I had like had a pad by me, or I had like my computer there to just start doing shit, because I was very excited at that point. And I'm like, this is it. This is the key to everything. And
Yeah,
I got to a point where I was like, I don't have time to do this. And what if it doesn't make me any money? What do I do then? Then I wasted all this time, you know?
yeah. The funny part is like, I don't know if you get like this, but this is how I get. So I was really excited about like highlighting, right? And like instead of buying one highlighter, I buy like 10. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna need these. I'm gonna go through all of them. I mean, there's no way I'm just gonna use one. So like I buy like 10 of them. Of course, I haven't even gone through the first one yet.
You mentioned highlighters. Like I was cleaning up my desk. Like I put up this shelf behind me and I had these old highlighters and I looked at them and I was like, I should get rid of these. I was like, no, wait, Jason started highlighting stuff. So I better keep these because I'm going to need a highlighters.
Yeah. So I think the moral of the story is that you have to take what you learn and what you read and apply it, because if you don't, then it's worthless. And speaking of wasting time, you will be wasting time. It's more of a waste of time to read it and not use it than it is to read it and then try it. So,
yeah. And you made a good point with our podcast too. I'm sure a lot of people do that with our podcast too. They listen, they take in some information that's valuable to them, and they're like, and they just move on with their day.
Right. Exactly. So, all right, guys. I hope that helped. I know it wasn't like quote unquote an actionable thing, although it is an actionable thing. I mean, it's something that I think somebody needs to hear.
Kick in the ass, right?
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, man, like the reward for the time that you've spent can be astronomical. Like we said, we sent one email. We made $42,000 from that one email, and the subsequent emails from there, we totaled $90,000 in like a week or two. So think about how long it takes people to make $90,000. We did that in 2 weeks. Not all, I wouldn't say all because I read the book and applied it, but a good portion. It was a $500 product. So I think that sales page was definitely something that helped.
100%. I knew you going in. You're like, this is not a cheap product. This is not going to be. We're not just going to be able to send an email and have people just jump all over us for this. We needed to really put something together strong.
Right, and we did. It was good. I think it worked out, and yeah, I think I don't think you can get better advice than go do the shit.
Yeah, Russell Brunson. One last point is like he says it a lot. About his you know what, it's coming up soon. His
Funnel Hacker Live.
Funnel Hacker Live. He's like, yeah, I invite my friends, my family there. I'm giving so much value. Like it blows his mind too, and it frustrates him. It gets him pissed off when he talks about it. He's like, and they don't do anything with it. Like I am actually giving them $1 million business ideas, and they do nothing with it.
They do nothing with it. It's crazy.
So that's basically what we're saying. Right. Go do something. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. As always, you can check us out at www.ecommerceuncensoredcomp, and we'll talk to you guys real soon.
Later.
Attention e-commerce founders, entrepreneurs, side hustlers, marketers, and growth hackers. If you're working round the clock to build your dream e-commerce business, you need an e-commerce marketing platform that works just as hard as you do. That means you need Klaviyo. With Klaviyo, you'll delight customers and drive revenue at the same time, with personalized emails and SMS marketing campaigns that you can design and send in minutes. For more, visit klaviyo.com/uncensored. That's KLAVIYO.com/uncensored.